live in a neighborhood where there are a lot of immigrants.
So we heard from President Trump throughout the campaign trail. Now we're going to talk about Matt Gonzalez. Just about 10 minutes ago, when he addressed the reporters and everyone outside the courtroom after the verdict was read, he had this to say about the possible criticism that might be coming from the White House about this verdict.
For those who might criticize this verdict, there are a number of people that have commented on this case in the last couple of years. The Attorney General of the United States, the President and Vice President of the United States. Let me just remind them that they are themselves under investigation by a special prosecutor in Washington, D.C., and they may themselves soon avail themselves of the presumption of innocence and the beyond a reasonable doubt standard. And so I would ask them to reflect on that before they comment or disparage the result in this case.
Let's rejoin NBC Bay Area's Sam Brock. He's covered this trial since the beginning. And Sam, jurors are allowed to speak after the verdict is read. They all left the courthouse. You saw them leave. What did you see? What did you witness?
I witnessed a very kind of surprised reaction, I think, today from all parties in this case. You know, I would also say that it's just so interesting to hear Matt Gonzalez talk about the politics of this. Janelle, there were no politics, there were no talks of immigration. Jose Garcia Zarate's his immigration history never came up really in conversation during court. Only now, after the fact, after this verdict is being reviewed. But in terms of what I saw today, the jurors were all pretty placid, pretty calm when they came in. One was fidgeting visibly, but for the most part, they were engaged. We've talked about the fact that this is a young jury, that it was half men, half women, that they really seemed to be interested in asking probing questions, and unfortunately, we don't get to talk to them and find out what those discussions were like back and forth as they weighed which story they were going to believe or thought there was strong enough evidence to believe. And I think that's really what strikes me the most as we talk about this sort of case, is the fact that we didn't have direct evidence of eyewitnesses of Zarate on the pier. We had grainy video that really didn't show whether or not he was pointing a gun. So they were presented with two different stories. One of them was that the weapon was actually concealed inside of his pants, and one of them was that the weapon he found when he actually came to the pier wrapped up in a cloth. Diana Garcia, the lead prosecutor in this case, said, this is all about reason. What do you reasonably believe? Because we can't prove anything based on direct evidence in this case. There is nothing that is exculpatory or incriminating of Mr. Garcia Zarate based on what we've showed you. So the jurors were going back and debating sort of what stories seem to be more believable in the chronology of things, and that's why it's kind of amazing to me that they did weigh all of this so thoroughly and come up with the decision that they did, which said that he was in fact in possession of a weapon, and that there was not intent involved, but that he was not guilty of assault with a deadly weapon. Certainly we're going to get a lot more legal analysis on this. It's a fascinating case.
Yes, Dean, we want to rejoin you. So he is a felon in possession of a firearm, but he's acquitted on assault and involuntary manslaughter. He had the gun in his hands. They found him guilty of that.
Right.
And even if it accidentally went off, he's still not guilty on those other charges.
Yeah. Remember, it all goes back to the state of mind. To be guilty of a charge of felon in possession of a firearm, there are two things that have to be true. You have to be a felon. There's no question that Zarate is. And you have to be in possession of a firearm, and you have to know that you're in possession of a firearm. No question, that's what they did.
Okay, Dean Johnson, our legal analyst with NBC Bay Area, thank you so
always.
much for your insight and your time. That's going to do it for us now. We're going to continue our coverage online on our website, NBCBayArea.com. Also, all our social media platforms, Facebook and Twitter. And we'll have complete coverage after the football game tonight as well.
We'll see you around 8:45 this evening, but that's all for now. Again, we'll continue our coverage on our website. Thanks for joining us.
Good night, folks.